rárá tálára bá ti ń gbọ́ kó sọ fàjẹrò tájẹrò bá ti ń gbọ́ kó tàtà pọ̀ ẹ̀sọ́ tí ọwọ́ àràǹgún àga pọ́rọ̀ tó gbòde ti gbẹ̀rẹ̀gẹ̀ jíjẹ lórí afẹ́fẹ́ ọ̀rọ̀ tó gbòde níbi tẹ́tí máa pàdé bá mẹ́tò kọ́láwọlé Idris Sule tòun tàlájà Àbíkẹ́ Akín pẹ̀lú àti balógun Òdúnifá Adébáyọ̀ pẹ̀lú pásítọ̀ Amos Ọlátújà àti Tajudeen Tìjání Àlàbí Àjàmájẹ̀bi ní gbogbo ọjọ́ ìṣẹ́gun tí a mọ̀ sí Tuesday láago 4 ọ̀sán ní USA Eastern Time tó jẹ́ agogo 9 àṣálẹ́ ní UK Time àti agogo orílẹ̀-èdè Yorùbá tíá ọ̀rọ̀ tó gbòde tọmọdé tàgbà ló láǹfààní àti wètò yìí nítorí pé ó kún fọ́gbọ́n tó ń tòye tá a nílò lásìkò yìí gan ọ̀rọ̀ tó gbòde lórí ètò yìí bákan náà lẹ́yìn tí láǹfààní àti máa gbọ́ òkodoro ọ̀rọ̀ ohun tó ń lọ lágbàáyé ohun tó ń lọ nílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà àti ní orílẹ̀-èdè gbogbo láì fi ipò mọ́yọ̀ rárá fún ẹ̀kúnrẹ́rẹ́ àlàyé síwájú sí i tàbí tẹ́ ẹ bá ní àwọn ìbéèrè àti àmọ̀ràn kankan ẹ lè pe atọ́kùn ètò sórí +1 203 685 2961 tàbí kẹ́kàn sí +44 793 972 6080 bákan náà ní ẹ lè pe +234 706 787 2785 ọ̀rọ̀ tó gbòde a ò ní wá mìtì nínú olóríire àmín ìkéde ìdẹ́sítì gbé látọwọ́ ìgbìmọ̀ tó wà fún ìpolongo àpapọ̀ ẹ̀sìn ilẹ̀ Yorùbá tá a mọ̀ sí Yorùbá Nation Multi-Faith.
ẹ ṣé gan bàbá wa it bàbá Yágbóyájú more blessing mo kí gbogbo wa pé a kú ìkàlẹ̀ o ẹ kú alẹ́ ní ilẹ̀ wa nílẹ̀ Yorùbá àwa tá wà ní diaspora àwa tá wà ní UK ẹ kú rọ̀lẹ́ àwa tí US náà àwa náà kú rọ̀lẹ́ more blessing o èní ni ìjọ́ kejì ọ̀sẹ̀ ìjọ́ kejì Monday ìjọ́ Ìṣẹ́gun àtúndé bá ṣe ń dé o àwa náà ni ẹ mọ̀ bá o ẹ̀yin náà lè máa tún wá o ẹ wá nǹkan fìdílé ẹ fìdílé nǹkan program wa ẹ̀ ní gbogbo àwọn akọ́ tó ti ń já rìnrìn ìlú náà ni la fẹ́ ṣe àlàyé lórí ẹ̀ so àwọn bàbá àtàdẹ̀gbé wa wọ́n máa bá a yàn náà gbogbo kíní wọ̀nyí ní tó máa jẹ́ pé á jẹ́ sí nǹkan tá a máa nífẹ̀ẹ́ sí kọ́lọ́n kó ṣàánú fún wa àdúrà wa dẹ́gbà lágbára Èdùmàrè ẹ wá fi nǹkan fìdílé nǹkan orúkọ tèmi ni Kọ́láwọlé Idris Sule mo wà ní Bridgeport Connecticut in the US so mo jẹ́ kan náà àtàjọ wà ń di ètò yìí àwọn èèyàn mi tó kù náà wọ́n á introduce ara wọn so àwọn ìyá wa Àbíkẹ́dẹ̀ ní as usual àwọn náà máa bá gbé àlejò wa wọlé àná àná bàbá pọ́n bàbá lé torí èmi lè máa sọ nǹkan kan lọ títí di pé èmi kí wọn káàbọ̀ pé wọ́n ṣe o gbogbo gbà là ń pè wọ́n sọ́dẹ̀ ń jẹ́ wa ń sọ pé ẹ ṣe sọ fún mi tẹ́lẹ̀ wọ́n ti wà ready so I appreciate wọn Ọlọ́run àtúbọ̀ máa dáhùn gbogbo nǹkan tẹ́ ẹ̀ náà ń bá ṣe fún lágbára Ọlọ́run ẹ ṣé gan bàbá wa so let me stop here so mo pass it back to Mama Àbíkẹ́ so ẹgbẹ́ ẹ̀.
ẹ ṣé bàbá, mo kí gbogbo wa kú dédé àsìkò yìí, ẹ káàsán, ẹ káàárọ̀, ẹ kúrọ̀lẹ́, ẹ kú ìyálẹ̀ta, ibikíbi tí gbogbo wa wà ní gbogbo àgbáyé. Lọ́la mọ̀ pé gbogbo káàkiri náà láti wà lórí ètò wa ọ̀rọ̀ tó gbòde tí àwa ní ọ̀sọ̀ọ̀sẹ̀ ní ọjọ́ kejì ọ̀sẹ̀ tí í ṣe ọjọ́ ìṣẹ́gun tó lóra a máa ṣẹ́gun fún gbogbo wa ní àṣẹ Èdùmàrè. Àwa náà la tún wá bá ṣe wá náà nìyí, ẹ̀yin náà la máa dé bá nígbà gbogbo kankan wa ànípẹ̀dín a kì í yọ sọnù bí ọmọ wò ní agbára àṣẹ Elédùmarè. Àwọn bàbá wa tá gbé wá ní àṣálẹ́ yìí, òdú ni wọn kì í ṣe àmọ̀fọ́ lóko, wọn ta sórí ìkànnì wa láìmọye ìgbà. A dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín bàbá tí à ń pè ní tí ẹ jẹ́ Ọlọ́run Elédùmarè á máa jẹ́ ẹ̀yin náà. Ẹ ṣé gan ni, a mọ̀ lóore pé a pè yín ẹ jẹ́ wa, ẹ ṣé gan ní ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀. Gẹ́gẹ́ bàbá ṣe sọ ọ̀rọ̀ tí ó ń jẹ́ ìrọ̀rùn lórí ìwé tí a gbé lọ sí ojúlé kẹwàá ti number 10 Downing Street ti ìlú United Kingdom lórí ìjàngbara Yorùbá movement wa náà ni pé mọ́tẹ̀ ṣe ń lọ ọ̀rẹ́ pé bàbá náà bá wa comment níbì kan tí wọ́n sọ lórí ìwé náà tí a kọ tí wọ́n sọ ti tòótọ́ fún àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá pé wọ́n sọ wípé àwọn tó gbéwèé lọ wọn ò pọ̀ tó, ẹni tó gbéwèé lọ illiterate ni, kò kàwé. Bàbá sọ lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ nínú ìwé wọn tí wọ́n kọ tí ó dẹ̀ dùn mọ́ wa nínú pé tò àwọn nìkan la jọ ń ṣe kinní yìí, àwọn tí a jọ ń ṣe ìṣà ìjàngbara yìí. Inú wa dùn pé a rí nǹkan báyìí tó ń wá lórí pé àwọn kan mọ̀ wípé nǹkan tá à ń ṣe òtítọ́ là ń ṣe, Ọlọ́run á dẹ̀ ràn wá lọ́wọ́. Ilẹ̀ náà tá fẹ́ gbà Ọlọ́run á mú wa débẹ̀ láìpẹ́ láì jìnnà. Ìṣọ̀kan yóò kú bẹ́ẹ̀ ni wọn ò ní sí mọ́ òkú bàbá àbíyẹ. Olúwa gbà wá lọ́wọ́ àwọn èèyàn wa tí wọ́n ń fọwọ́ ọlá bọ́ wa lójú. Ìṣèrò kí n máa sọ̀rọ̀ ju bó ti ṣe yẹ lọ torí ọ̀rọ̀ pọ̀ tá a máa bá wa sọ ní alẹ́ ká má gbára wa lásìkò. Mo kí ẹnjíníà wa náà pé ẹ ṣé ẹ kú ìgbà gbogbo, a máa ju yín ṣe, a dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín. Mo ti rí àwọn èèyàn wa tí wọ́n darapọ̀ wá lórí Zoom, màá kí wọn kí tó lọ àwọn tó wà lórí YouTube. Mo rí màmá Wọlé ajá náà, màmá ẹ ṣé ẹ kú dédé wòyí.
Ẹ kú iṣẹ́ Olúwa o.
Ẹ ṣé mà àrò ilé bí. Mo rí ẹni tán pera wọn ní Bismarck, ẹ má bínú o tí n bá pè dáadáa. Ẹ ṣé kan tẹ́ darapọ̀ mọ́ wa. Màmá wọmọ níjì, mo kí ẹ̀yin náà ẹ kú ìgbà gbogbo. Mo kí bàbá wa Tajudeen A53, ẹ ṣé gan ni. Bàbá wa Yorùbá Party UK, wọn náà ni bàbá wa bá ṣẹ́gun. Àwọn ni leader Yorùbá Party ní UK. Ẹ ṣé o bàbá, ẹ ṣé lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀. Àjíǹde ara máa jẹ́ o. Ẹ ṣé gan ni. Ẹ jẹ́ kí n wá àwọn èèyàn wa tó wà lórí YouTube kó tó di pé mo gbé bàbá wa wọlé. Ẹ fún mi ní 1 minute láti wò wọ́n lórí YouTube. Yeah. YouTube mi. Okay. YouTube mi ó lòdù lọ́wọ́, ó dà kò burú, a máa kí wọn tá bá ṣe ń bá ètò lọ. Láì dóònà pẹ̀lú orúkọ tèmi ní Àbíkẹ́ Akínpẹ̀lú, mo kalẹ̀ sí ìlú ọba nílùú United Kingdom. Ẹ ṣé gan ni, a dúpẹ́ lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí i. Bàbá wa Ọlátújà, Pásítọ̀ Amos Ọlátújà, àwọn náà máa darapọ̀ mọ́ wa láìpẹ́. Mo rò pé táìmù wọn ti Amẹ́ríkà tó change, bẹ́ẹ̀ ló jẹ́ kán pẹ́ wọlé dẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n à ń retí àwọn náà máa darapọ̀ mọ́ wa. Ẹ ṣé gan ni. Bàbá wa Báṣegùn, mo fi tọwọ́tọwọ́ kí yín sà, ẹ káàbọ̀ sí orí ètò wa ti àṣálẹ́ yìí. Ẹ ṣeun gan ni o. Ẹ bá wa gbóhùn sókè lórí ti alẹ́ tẹ́ bá wa sọ nípa ìwé tá gbé lọ sí number 10 Downing Street. Kí lẹ tẹ̀ rí nípa ẹ̀ náà? Lẹ́yìn náà fi sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀ náà lórí platform yín. Lórí àrí nǹkan tí ẹ kọ, tàdé rí pé ó wú wa lórí inú wa dùn láti ka nǹkan báyìí látọ̀dọ̀ ẹ̀yin tẹ́ tún jẹ́ bí ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n tẹ́ ti wà nílùú òkèèrè tó ti ṣe díẹ̀. Ẹ ṣé lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ bàbá. Over to you sir. Thank you.
Ẹ káalẹ́ o.
Ẹ káalẹ́ sà.
Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín pé ẹ tún pè mí wá bá yín sọ̀rọ̀. Ẹ ní bínú pé òyìnbó lèmi máa sọ torí tí n bá ní kí n máa sọ Ìjẹ̀ṣà àwọn tó máa yé kò lè pọ̀. The only thing I will say in because ó yẹ ká mọ̀ the meaning of self-determination. Ìdádúró kìí ṣe it's not the same as independence. Ìdádúró, that's what self-determination means. if you will permit me, I don't want to waste any time to be arguing about whether Igbo was qualified to submit something to Downing Street and so on and so forth. The thing that I will say about that is this, that by submitting that letter to number 10 on the 12th of October 2024, I was there at the time. What Igboho did was to put pressure on the British government, to ask the British government, what are you going to do, or what can you do, or do something. So, Entopa Sokpe, is not, you simply don't understand politics. What Igboho did was to put pressure on the British government, asking them, the government, to do something. That was why the Nigerian government panicked and asked for a meeting of the representative of the British High Commission in Abuja. If the letter didn't mean anything, the Nigerian government wouldn't say anything. Because what the letter in effect was saying is that the British government should do something. Now, there are anybody who has read things that I've written will know that I call some people the Nigerianistas. These people have been comforting themselves with the belief that Britain will not interfere because Nigeria is a sovereign state and Britain doesn't interfere in sovereign states. Ironibogwe. Britain interfered in the breakup of former Yugoslavia. Most people don't know that, but Britain actually interfered in the breakup of Yugoslavia. Britain has interfered in Iraq. If you remember, I've forgotten the Prime Minister's name. I know it was John Major who was involved in the Yugoslavia thing in 1991, thereabout. And then the Labour leader who won 3 elections, I can't remember, Tony Blair, was the one who brought Britain into Iraq. Then Britain has been in Afghanistan. So the idea that Britain does not interfere in the affairs of a sovereign state, Ironibogwe. It is a fallacy. So the question for us, so as I said, I don't want to get involved in whether anyone like Igboho or anyone superior Igboho and so on and so forth. The fact of the matter is, done what most of us couldn't do. I haven't done it. And other people haven't done it. So the fact that he has done it is something that is different from everybody else. So the question that I wish to ask, or ask us to discuss today, is this: how can we pressurize the UK government into doing something? If you remember what I said, the essence of the letter that Igboho brought to number 10 was to ask Britain to do something. So what next? What can we do now? What can we do to pressurize the UK government into doing something? Because as I said earlier, the idea that they are not going to do, because Nigeria is a foreign, it's a sovereign state, they are not going to interfere. It's poppycock. Britain will do whatever is in the interest of Britain. Britain is not going to do something in the interest of Nigeria. Britain will do whatever is the interest of Britain. So anybody who thinks that they can't interfere is poppycock. So let's just take the issues one by one. The first thing is that the British public itself may be used to apply the pressure. The British public. And this is how the British are obsessed with immigration. As you can see, they spend billions and billions of pounds on preventing. That's what took them to, not Botswana, Rwanda.
Rwanda.
Yeah, well, they've already wasted over 200 million pounds, and they've had to cancel that idea. And recently, the new prime minister, they've just voted a certain amount of money to prevent the boats coming into Britain. So the British government spends every single day, spends millions and millions of pounds to prevent immigration. And immigration is what was responsible for the British government to give up the Chagos. I don't know if you know anything about the Chagos Islands, no? That they have just given up. That's in spite of the fact that the US has a military base on Diego Garcia. Britain was still prepared to give up the Chagos because that was the route that Sri Lankans and people in that area, that's the route of their immigration to Britain. So by handing over the islands to Mauritius, at least Mauritius the idea is that will prevent immigration from there. Now, why this is important is this. Last year, 140,000 Nigerians immigrated to the UK. 140 Nigerians. Nigeria is the third largest source of immigration to Britain. And the numbers are likely to rise. The idea that, maybe last year, no. The numbers are likely to rise. And therefore, if we are able to tie immigration to the troubles in Nigeria, that is a potential pressure point. And the way we could do it, and some people may disagree with me totally here, and I'm saying this pinching my nose so that I don't smell the smell, is that we could if you like, or ask the Reform Party of Nigel Farage, that we could convince them that we have the same objective. They don't want Nigerians to come here. We don't want Nigerians to come here either. And the only way to stop that is to have Yoruba nation. Because as long as Nigeria is what it is, there will always be immigration, large-scale immigration. Because, we Yorubas are much more educated, we are much more enterprising. We have a lot going for us, and Nigeria does not provide us with the space to do. An example is even in this country, you have a situation where the leader of the opposition is a Yoruba woman. So that tells you, and in the States, Adeyemo, I can't remember, is the deputy, Secretary of Finance or Secretary of Finance or something like that. It's a Yoruba man. So it is just unfortunate that what this means is that we have to make common cause with Nigel Farage and the Reform Party. And as far as I'm concerned, if that is one way of doing it, then I'll be prepared to do it. As I said, I will pinch my nose to avoid the smell. And if we have to cooperate or share a common cause with Nigel Farage, so be it. These are the sort of things we need to discuss amongst ourselves, to ask ourselves, are we prepared to speak to whoever, to have common cause to whoever, if we can get Yoruba nation? So that's the British public. People who have, read stuff that I've written or have heard me will know that I'm very keen on the legal route. The British courts, we can use the British courts to apply the pressure. And this is because, again, as I've described elsewhere, that Britain has no or had no legal right to incorporate the Yoruba land into Nigeria in the 1914 amalgamation. There's no legal right. Britain didn't have any legal right to do it. Firstly, because Britain itself recognized Yoruba land as a state and therefore signed a treaty with Yoruba land on the 23rd of July, 1888. This was a treaty between Queen Victoria of Great Britain and Oba Adeyemi, the Alaafin of Oyo, and head of Yoruba land. So states sign treaty with states. So by signing treaty with Yoruba land, Britain accepted that Yoruba land was a state. In 1890, the British set up the Osborne-Niger Commission. They wanted to put together all the dominion, all the bits of Nigeria that were British, that they considered to be British. They wanted to bring them all under one administration. And in that report, the committee recognized Yoruba land as a country on its own, which was not part of the British Dominion. Let me repeat that so that everybody can understand that clearly. When the Niger Committee made its report about amalgamation, about bringing all the British Dominion under one administration, they recognized that Britain had no jurisdiction over Yoruba land. They recognized Yoruba land as a country in its own right, and that Britain did not have jurisdiction over Yoruba land. So how did we come to then end up in Nigeria? We ended up in Nigeria because the British government used what is called prerogative legislation. That is, the king, it was then, and three other people, they sat down in Windsor Castle and they decided that, they were going to create what they called the colony of Nigeria. This was in 1913. Now, that legislation, the reason why they did the prerogative legislation, that is, four of them just sat in Windsor Castle sipping tea, and then they decided that they were going to form Nigeria. The reason why they did that, the British government didn't use the parliament to create colonies, was because Parliament had already decided in 1865 that Britain was not going to have any more colonies. And so between 1865 and about 1890 or thereabout, there were no activities at all. What basically happened was that the French were beginning to stick their noses into Abeokuta area, trying to get treaty. That was what made the British to then decide that they were going to create this country called Nigeria. For me, it is high time we brought this matter to court. Win or lose, I think we must bring this matter to court. And by going to court, we will pressurize the government, the British government, to do something. Because they'll have to either come to court to tell us that the 1888 treaty didn't mean anything, or to tell us that the Osborne report meant nothing. So we need to take this matter to court. The problem is the problem of money. And I think in the end, we are probably going to rely on what we call this GoFundMe kind of thing. I think in the end, that is what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to GoFundMe in order to be able to pay for it. The third method that we can use to apply pressure on the British government is the Commonwealth. And I say that because, oh dear, what have I done now? Can you still see me? I
Yes,
say
I see
that,
you.
yeah, I say that because the Commonwealth heads of government, they've just concluded a meeting in Samoa. At that meeting, they discussed reparatory justice for the damage that Atlantic slavery did to Africa. And the heads of the Commonwealth heads, they describe slavery as a crime against humanity that should always have been regarded as a crime and that should never ever be forgotten. Now, where we Yoruba come in is this, that the Yoruba bore the brunt of slavery, of the transatlantic slavery. And I can say that because everybody says, oh, yeah, we were enslaved, The only people that we know for certain is Yoruba. Because in Brazil, in Cuba, in parts of the United States, in the West, in the Caribbean, the West Indies, Yoruba culture is alive. Yoruba tradition is alive. Yoruba religion is alive. There is no other African tradition, African culture, or African religion that you find anywhere. Only the Yoruba culture, only the Yoruba tradition, only the Yoruba religion. That's the only one that you find. That tells you that most of the slaves that were taken from West Africa to the Americas were Yoruba. And the estimate, and I can only make estimate, is that about 10 million Yoruba were taken. We know for certain that about 5 million slaves were deposited in Brazil and Cuba. We know that for certain. And since the culture, the slave culture is Yoruba, that tells us that about 5 million Yorubas ended in the Americas during the slave trade. Remember, this took 400 years. This wasn't one day. It took 400 years, the slavery. So from the point of view of the Yoruba, we are now and the other thing to say is that Britain benefited the most from the transatlantic slavery. I mean, we can go into that if you want to, but Britain benefited the most, more than any country. Therefore, more than any country, Britain owes the Yoruba a homeland for the abhorrent barbarism of the transatlantic slavery. This is the same way they gave the Jews a homeland as recompense for the Holocaust. So we are saying that as Yoruba people, 10 million of us were taken, 2 million of us died on the coast of West Africa before we could get on the boat. About another 3 million of us died on the passage from West Africa to the Americas, and 5 million of us ended up there where they are till today. And on that basis, we believe that we are entitled to a homeland of our own, exactly the same way that the Jews were compensated for the Holocaust. What people call transatlantic slavery is actually the Yoruba Holocaust. That's what it is. If you kill 5 million people, true, you didn't gas them in a matter of months. True, it took 400 years to do it. But in fact, that is even worse because it's a slow bleeding of Yoruba land. And in my view, what we need to do right now is to make a formal application to the Commonwealth to explain why the Yoruba are entitled to their homeland. The final thing I would say about this is that Britain has international partners that could be used to pressurize, to apply pressure. And the international partners that I look at is the United Nations. I know, our people say, the UN can't do anything. But the fact of the matter is that you will not get self-determination without the blessing of the UN. Don't let anybody deceive you that you can get self-determination without the UN. You are not going to do it. Without the UN, there is nothing called self-determination. And examples are, for example, Somaliland, to all intent and purposes, is independent. Somalia has no presence at all in Somaliland, and yet Somaliland is not recognized worldwide because anytime anybody wants anything done, it is vetoed in the Security Council. And despite the fact that Somaliland used to be a British colony, Somalia, the rest of Somalia was Italian. Somaliland was British. In fact, Britain gave Somaliland independence. Britain gave and yet Somaliland is not independent today because its independence is vetoed at the Security Council. So anybody and the other example in Africa is the Sahrawi Republic. I don't know if you know this. They used to call it Northwest Africa. What else did they used to call it? Morocco insists that Sahrawi is part of Morocco. Now, it's very difficult to understand why, because Morocco is populated by Berbers. Although they pretend that they're Arabs, they're actually not Arabs. The Moroccans are not Arabs, they are Berbers. And Sahrawi is Black Africa. So Sahrawi has never belonged to Morocco, even in colonial times. It used to be two separate regions. Yet, Sahrawi, for example, is a member of the African Union, and yet it is not recognized by the UN because France, friend of Morocco, vetoes it at the UN. So the way that I think we can do it at the UN, because then it brings everybody out of the woodwork, is for the Yoruba nation to make an application to the UN to be member of UN, which is exactly what Yasser Arafat did for the Palestinians. Because then you will find out who your friends are. Because once your application is before the UN and is being debated, you see who your friends are, who are not your friends, and so on and so forth. I think these are the four ways in which we can follow on what Igboho did, which, as I said, what Igboho did was to apply pressure on Britain to do something. And what we need to do is to apply pressure for Britain to do something. And there are certain things we can do very quickly. If you remember, the first one that I said was about immigration. We can have a tete-a-tete with the Reform Party and see how far we can go. The second one was the British courts, which is going to cost a lot of money. And I've always, I think in the end, we're going to do GoFundMe to do it because we're talking of a lot of money. We're talking at least £50,000 to start with. Then we talk about the Commonwealth, and in my view, as I said, because the Commonwealth heads of states have now recognized that something has to be done, then we need to make a formal application to the EU, to the Commonwealth, to say we want a homeland for the Yoruba people because of the suffering that we've endured from the slavery. And the final thing that I talked about was the UN. That, whether we like it or not, we have to go through the UN. We're not going to do anything, we're not going to achieve anything unless we go through the UN. Now, what I'm just going to close with is this, that nobody actually knows the path that we are going to take to get self-determination. Nobody knows. What we do know is that whatever it is we have been doing up to now is not working. Whatever it is that we think we are doing up to this minute as we stay here is not working. We need new ideas. We need to do things differently. So when you're talking and people say, what you are suggesting is not going to work, I always remind them, what you are doing, what you have done has not worked. So if you have failed, you are then saying that I should do nothing. If you have failed, how do you know that I'm going to fail? And this is why I always say that the Yoruba elites are the weakest link. They're our weakest link. Because, to be honest, they do nothing. They talk. They do absolutely nothing. There is nothing so far, absolutely nothing that the Yoruba elites have done to bring about self-determination. Nothing. They are there, pouncing around, pretending they are important. And so, I was just reading about Afenifere saying that they want to cooperate with different people. What else? Oh yes, Afenifere is also angry with Tinubu that Tinubu is appointing Yoruba to important posts. This is Afenifere is supposed to be a Yoruba organization. And they are so stupid that they don't think that their job is to look after the Yoruba people. These people are buffoons. They've been there for so long and they've achieved nothing all these years that really they should crawl under the rock and go to sleep or whatever it is and let the rest of us, at least that we think we can do something, to get on with the job. For an organization that takes itself as representing the Yoruba people, to be saying that it was wrong for Tinubu to appoint Yoruba to posts just shows how bereft of ideas these people are. They offer nothing. They offer absolutely nothing, and they have no reason to exist whatsoever. And then when you look at our Are Ona Kakanfo, he is busy suing Igboho for whatever slander, whatever it is that he's doing. So I'm sorry that it has taken, I've spoken for so long. I will stop there. I'm happy to engage in any discussions, and I'm happy if you wish to ask questions for me to answer. Thank you very much once again for inviting me. I'm sorry that I've been speaking in English. As I said, if I start speaking in Ijesha, very few people of you will be able to understand me. Thank you.
Ẹ ṣé bàbá wa, we appreciate this much. Àwọn 5 points draw wọ̀nyẹn, I say 5 points according to bí mo ṣe rò kó jẹ́. The first one yẹn náà ni the sub point has to do with where do I have my numbers? Come on. Okay, the first one ni irú the pressure.
Immigration.
The pressure tí lẹ́tà bàbá Ìgbòho submit. So ọ̀nà tá a dẹ̀ wá lè gbà put the pressure ẹni pé by immigration. Ká wo irú ẹni tó wà tó jẹ́ pé is opponent ní party something. So but conservative, let me say the conservative guy. So if you can have a way of coming together, okay, tó ń ṣe wáyé báyìí ni tí we can now agree with it pé okay o tó bá jẹ́ pé àsún pẹ̀lú ẹ̀ náà ni to get that achieved. Because immigration ní ìsìn àwọn èèyàn wa wọ́n ń jáde láti lọ bẹ́ẹ̀. Britain dẹ̀ ní wọn àfẹ́ kan wá. So ohun tá a lè ṣe náà ni pé kán fi wálẹ̀ kan jẹ́ káwa ń lu wa. I will associate that to that number one, which is immigration. And then the second one is going through the court, especially to see pé wọ́n ti violate the rule tán sign pẹ̀lú treaty tán sign pẹ̀lú bàbá wa láàfin as of that time. Gbogbo nǹkan tá dẹ̀ ń ṣe láti rí pé wọ́n sọ country yẹn di company wọn ní industry wọn ni, because gbogbo ọ̀nà tán gbà tán fẹ́ ṣe àwọn bíi mẹ́rin náà lọ pé náà sọ pé yẹ ẹja create country ńgbà tán ti rí pé France náà high láti wà ní ìlú yẹn, so in order to block other country from taking us na wọ́n ṣe tán lọ wá decide to fi dípẹ́ lọ́hún sọ pé wọ́n amalgamate wa north and south. Definitely it's not to our own interest. Gbogbo tán ṣe is to their own interest. And then the third point tó jẹ́ pé okay Commonwealth, so tí irú treaty tán sign pẹ̀lú àwọn bóyá one republic fún slavery is a crime or something like that, whereby we have to go into that transatlantic something trade tó kó wá sí irú nǹkan báyẹn, whereby we lost about or maybe 10 million Yorubas are taken, 5 million died or they were deported or they drowned in the sea or some are dropping. Be 5 million were dropped in Brazil. Tabade will káàkiri bí tá scatter sí náà ni pé we have Yoruba, we have them in Sudan, we have them in Brazil, we have them in Cuba, so we have them in Jamaica. Gbogbo oru areas wọ̀nyẹn wọ́n keep culture wa ju àwa gan pàápàá lọ. So all those are footprints pé yes Yorubas are here. A ti ní empire wa kó tó di pọ́n dé, a ti ní country wa tẹ́lẹ̀ kó tó di pọ́n dé. So tá bá lọ sí court we put that, which involves money, everything involves money, but irú ní court case yìí ló involve owó. Ẹ̀dẹ̀ ti suggest àìdá pé tá bá fẹ́ raise owó yìí náà bóyá to GoFundMe ni. Those are the things pé okay if you want to do this, how do we go about it? Point tó kù tí mi ti mention ni pé we have to apply to the UN pé we want our own country. Torí pé tá bá ní àní sọ fún UN, there's no way tá lè lọ without getting them involved and then their partners too. Gómìnà ìpàdé tó yẹ pé wọ́n support the US, whereby when the application goes there, àmọ́ will not wà tán lè support it pé yes Nigeria wants to be, Yoruba wants to be a country. So a lè mọ tán fẹ́ support àbí àwọn tán fẹ́ support wa. They say show me your face and whatever language they always say, the proverb. So we apply to UN nation to agitate pé we want our own country, which is a Yoruba nation. So and then the fourth one, I think that's a formal application only. So ní UN tán bá debate here, we will know who is going to support us, who is not going to support us. All this requires certain efforts. Now the question will be how to get started on this. Are these points something one can do simultaneously, or we have to say, oh, okay, number one, let's face number one first to know the result before we go to the second step? That would be my question on the 5 points that were highlighted.
My response to that is that it should all be simultaneous, not one after the other. There's no reason why we can't. We can discuss with Nigel Farage almost immediately. He's in America right now supporting Trump. That election finishes today, so we'll know whatever happens tomorrow. So it's possible to start talking to him within the next week or so. So that's not a problem. The court cases, we can write the GoFundMe right now and follow that. Commonwealth just requires a formal letter of application, so that can be done straight away. And the UN again just requires an application. At the present time, I'm writing an application anyway on behalf of the Yoruba Party, and at the sort of application. When I say application, I mean real application. I don't mean 2 pages or 3 pages. So far, I think I've got as far as 150 pages.
Oh
because you have to remember that nobody knows who the Yoruba are. When people talk and this, that, and the other, we are not known. If you if you go onto the streets of London and you say, who are the Yoruba, people will look at you as if, nobody knows who we are. So we can't do anything until people know who we are. And they will know who we are. When you make an application, you say, this is who the Yoruba are, this is our history, this is our culture, this is how we existed before the Europeans came, this is what transpired between us and the Europeans before they decided that they were going to amalgamate our country illegally. And this is what happened in negotiation for Nigeria's independence in 1954, where it was agreed by everybody that you are going to have regions that were autonomous, self-governing, and that carried on until 1966, when the Igbos decided to end what Nigeria was and introduce a unitary government, which the Northerners then took over and have since been running with it. And we Yoruba are not interested in a unitary government. We don't want to be part of Nigeria. We don't want to be part of a unitary government, and that we will never progress as long as we are in Nigeria. And it is obvious, and we need to point out that we are naturally very progressive and enterprising people. And we can say that because the leader of opposition in the UK is a Yoruba woman, and the deputy secretary of commerce or something in the United States is a Yoruba man. So you can say that we have, and these are people who were first educated in Nigeria. Even Badenoch, who got her degree in the UK, for the first 60 years of her life, she was educated in Nigeria. And her parents were educated in Nigeria with all their degrees and and so on and so forth. So these are the sort of things we need to point. We need to point all this out in our application to the UN, which is why it will take a large volume, almost the size of a book. Because when the debate comes, you don't want them to be saying, well, we don't know this, we don't know that, because it will all be included in the application. And, again, you'll be talking about, in particular, the way that Nigeria was governed in such a way as to exclude the Yorubas right from 1960. Whereas we were part of the system up to independence. After independence, we have been marginalized. So these are the sort of things you need to point out. And let me just say, the same thing we have to, I think we should apply to the African Union as well, because that's what Sahrawi people did. They applied to the African Union. It was debated, because the only way you are going to know who your friends are, who are going to support you and who are not, is when you put your name forward at the forum or fora. One of the tragedies of us, really, and the people who've been doing our self-determination, is that really they don't understand international politics at all. We Yorubas are very bad politicians. I mean, we can pass around and say we are clever, this, that, and the other. We are very bad, very, very bad politicians indeed. As an example, we are supposed to be members of the UNPO. We don't pay the annual fees. We don't attend their meetings. And the UNPO could be used as a megaphone, because they meet every year. They have topics that they discuss, they issue communique, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's this sort of organization for the Jews is called the UN Watch. Same sort of idea. If you see what happened, they have their office in Geneva. And I just happen to be one of their correspondents, so they send me everything about what is going on. If you see how hard they work to bring Israel to the consciousness of every single member of the UN, we don't do any of it. So we're even a member of an organization that we could exploit to make our point known to the whole universe. We don't do anything with it. All we say is, we are members of the UNPO. So what? If you are a member of an organization and you do nothing, you might as well not be a member. And I mean, those. I mean, I think Ilana is the one that has the membership key or whatever it is. I mean, if they were happy to hand it over to the Yoruba party in the UK, we'll take it on. We will be able to use it to communicate widely about Yoruba people. I will attend their meetings wherever it is in the world. I will make the Yoruba party will make the point of making sure that we are heard. Not, you're a member of the UNPO, you don't do anything at all. It's pointless. So this is the problem. We are not known. We need to find a way of making ourselves known. And until we are known, we are not getting anywhere. You may be known in Nigeria, but you're not known anywhere else. I mean, that's just it. We need to find a way of making people know that we are Yoruba, we are not comfortable in Nigeria, we are entitled to have our own country, which is the way I look at this. People talk about, the Northerners are doing this. I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in is this. We Yoruba have a right to be on our own, period. And we want to be on our own. Nigeria, good or bad, is irrelevant. Tinubu is a Yoruba man in charge of Nigeria, is irrelevant. We have a right. That right says we can go on our own, and that's all we want. We just want to go on our own, period. Thank you.
All right, sir. Sorry, Gbogbole. The next question will be, I want the clarification. We have OAU. Would that be the same thing as African Union you are referring to?
Yes, it's not been OAU for a long time. They don't call it OAU anymore. It's African Union.
Okay, I'm behind. Then the next one is UNDP and UNPO.
UNP is on. It's not United Nations. It's unrepresented UNP, unrepresented people's organization. People are not represented in the UN.
Yeah. So
they are the ones that
UNDP is the same thing as UNPO.
No. UNDP is a development program. No. That's a UN. That's a UN organization. The UNPO is not a UN organization. No.
Okay.
It's an organization on its own. Of unrepresented people, indigenous people, unrepresented people. So there are different. In fact, I think East Timor used to be part of it, and East Timor is now independent. I think. So there's this organ. In fact, I think Biafra is also there. So you have this organization that has, people, different countries, different people who seek independence. The Catalans are there, of Spain. So all these people, they are unrepresented people, and they meet. And the last thing that I got into contact with them was a report on the relationship between land and self-determination. Because the conference was about land. Okay. That you mustn't give up your land. Like in Nigeria, where anybody can just turn up in Yoruba land and you're stupid enough to sell your land to them. But part of the thing that the UNPO says is because of the importance of land to self-determination, you don't give up your land. But the important thing is that this is an organization that we could use to make the world hear about us. If you understand what I mean. If you're in an organization like that, you should be making a lot of noise. A lot of noise. But the organization went from Yoruba World Congress to Ilana. And Yoruba never done anything with it at all. As I said, as far as I know, they don't pay
the membership fee.
They don't pay membership fee. They don't attend any of their meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pointless saying you're a member. I did write to them once to find out whether we could just simply take over. Because at the end of the day, that is the sort of organization that we need.
But did you get any response from them when you
No, it was recent. I'll get back in touch with them again.
Okay.
It may well be that we might have to just call ourselves something else, like Odua Republic or something. That, but we'll see. But that's just an example of the sort of gestures. We like gestures. That's what we do. We like gestures, but gestures will not get you Yoruba Nation. It's not going to get you anywhere. So anyway.
Right, thank you. Let me give other people chances.
Ẹ ṣé gan-an, kódà léyìí ó wá kíyẹmí ara, ẹ ṣé gan-an ni ìtẹ́ bá wa sọ yìí, ó yé wa yékéyéké, ó dẹ̀ ìlànà náà tá a tún lè rìn sí, ẹ ṣé gan-an ni. Kó tó wá di pé mo pe bàbá wa Tajudeen tí wọ́n lọ́wọ́ sókè, àwọn kan wà lórí YouTube tí mi tí kí wọn. Ẹnjíníà wa kó tó di pé mo kí wọn, ẹ jọ̀ọ́ wọ́n béèrè nọ́mbà tí wọ́n lè pè sí láti béèrè question. Ẹ bá wa post nọ́mbà ti UK ti tèmi, mo fi sórí chat. Ẹnjíníà wa bá wa gbé sórí screen káwọn èèyàn lè rí lórí YouTube láti pè wọlé +44 79 39 72 6080. Lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí +44 79 39 72 6080. Ẹ ṣé torí àwọn èèyàn kọ sórí YouTube pé wọ́n fẹ́ mọ ibi tí wọ́n lè pè wọlé láti béèrè question. Mo kí màmá wa Níní Ọlá darapọ̀ mọ́ wa, mo kí bàbá wa Pastor Látújà, ẹ̀yin náà múra sílẹ̀ láti bá wa dá sí ètò tí wọ́n bá wa sọ̀rọ̀ lọ́wọ́. Mo rí bàbá wa Làwálọ lánàá ọ̀sẹ̀ náà, ẹ ṣé gan-an ni. Mo wá bọ́ sórí àwọn wa lórí YouTube. Mo rí màmá wa Jímọ̀ Táíwò, màmá wa Tóyìn Jímọ̀, wọ́n ní more strength to every one of you, ẹ ṣé mà. Mo rí Elkana Bámidélé, wọ́n ní ẹ kú ètò. Mo rí bàbá wa Sam Oyèbáyọ̀, wọ́n ní can you postpone the number to ask question again? Okay. Màmá wa Jímọ̀ Táíwò, wọ́n ní pé my question is that why is it that our leaders in Yoruba don't want us to leave Nigeria? Are they not seeing what they are doing to our people at home? So, bàbá wa, question kan nìyẹn sir. So,
right. Okay. The one of the words that I use for our Yoruba leaders is Ojo. I call them Olojo. It isn't being a coward as such, but and it isn't being stupid either. It's just
nonchalant.
Well, I mean, it isn't that either. It's just that we
so contented.
We really. It's not content either. It's just that's why I use the word Ojo. It's a very difficult thing to explain. As an example, I was on a platform last Friday, and we're talking about I was talking about the suffering that the slaves suffered when they were being held on the coast before they were transported on boats. And the argument that I was getting was that Shebi àwọn Yoruba, they were part of the slave traders. I mean, totally irrelevant. Although that is not true either, but it was actually irrelevant to the point I was making, that our people were incarcerated in dungeons, you know, what do you, not in tunnels from where they cannot escape. It was dark. They were starving. There was no food. There was no toilet to go to. They were chained. And they existed in this inhuman condition until a boat came along to take them. So many of them died there. Probably, I estimate that about 2 million people died in that sort of condition, which is not dissimilar to people who are being gassed in Germany. And yet the argument that people were fumulating about was that we took part in the slave trade, that we sold ourselves. Totally irrelevant. And then when I challenged this idea that we actually sold slaves, they are telling me, there's some market that existed. All baloney, all rubbish. Because when you ask the question, how did they capture the slaves? What for? You have the only mode of fighting that we had was cutlass and stick. And then when you ask them, okay, where did they put these slaves? You said the slaves are coming from Sokoto. Sokoto to Badagry is 500-600 miles. How did they travel from there to the coast? There is no road. There is no kata for them to be using. You know, we just accept. This is the problem. We accept a lot of things, and when somebody questions it, you say, no, you are wrong. It doesn't make any sense. The British who took us as slaves, they knew they needed a place to keep the slaves. That's why they built those places on the coast. We have no such thing. You know, somebody was saying, the Benin people, they had 30,000 soldiers. Why? To do what? Who was paying this soldier? Where's the money that you are going to use to pay the soldier? We didn't even have money until the Europeans came with cowries. We didn't spend money. So you have 30,000 soldiers to do what? Who's paying them? With what? Say Ojule fún wọn lówó ni. Abọ́gẹ̀dẹ̀ lẹ́ńtà fún wọn ni. It doesn't make any sense, but our people refuse to use common sense to really understand. You know, once somebody's told them that, 30,000 yín lẹ́ ń jà. With what? Who are you fighting? And you know, when people talk, àwọn èèyàn wá ní slaves. Slaves to where is the basilica that the slaves are built? Where's the road? Where's the plantation? Because something sounds grandiose. This is part of our problem. Something sounds grandiose. We think, we should be part of it. I mean, you know, somebody said, there was a Benin kingdom. Benin was only a city, just like any other city. Benin didn't have power over anybody other than the people of Benin. Benin was just a city. Just like Ibadan was a city, like Ilesha was a city, like Abeokuta was a city. That was it. They want kingdoms, they want empires, they want, you know. And this is the problem. Is that, you know, when we are told this sort of history, we don't actually ask questions. Could this be true? And I was trying to explain. For me, I ask the question because basically I'm a scientist, I'm an academic. And I do not accept anything on face value. I will ask questions. If it doesn't make sense, then I don't accept it. You know, people talk, Oyole, or your this, or your which Oyole? Because people who had idea of where they were going, it doesn't. There was no map. There was nothing. And you know, this is the problem that we have, and it's the sort of thing that Afenifere, who is supposed an organization of Yoruba people, they are too busy thinking about being fair to all ethnic groups. Who cares? Your job is to look after your own. This is the problem that we have as Yoruba people. That's why I said our leaders are the weakest link. Those who are supposed to lead us, their brains are scrambled. Their brains are totally scrambled. So they don't know whether they're coming or going or this, that is the biggest problem that we have. So when you say, why do our leaders do not wish to leave Nigeria? They don't know anything. They're too dumb to really see. The question that I ask every time is, what does Nigeria offer you that Yoruba land does not offer on its own? What? What is it that Nigeria offers you as a Nigerian that Yoruba land will not offer you? Tell me. It's nothing. Absolutely nothing. So even on that basis alone, why do you want to be in Nigeria? When it's exactly the same, we are going to get the same. I mean, there are members of the United Nations that have less than 1 million people. And they have the same vote as Nigeria with 200 million people. Exactly the same vote. A country that has less than 1 million people has exactly the same vote at the UN as Nigeria with 200 million. It's very difficult to understand their thinking. Really very difficult to understand their thinking. I mean, part of the problem with our history, of course, is that when they say oral history, they mean they've asked men. What do men know about their family? What do they know? What do men actually know about their family? What do men know about their history? If you want to know the history of a family, you ask the woman. So these people, the oral historians, they go and ask a man, and he's just telling whatever story comes to his mind. No matter how much rubbish, he's just accepting. He's just saying whatever it is comes to his head because he doesn't know. If you want to know about things like family stuff, you ask the woman. You don't ask a man. Anyway.
ẹ ṣe gan ni bàbá dáàdi wa Tajudeen má bínú mo ti lẹ́nu ìkan lórí kọ́là for the past 6 minutes wọ́n á gbóhùn sókè tó má ti béèrè question wọn. dáàdi ó yẹ bá gbóhùn sókè sá. You are now live. ẹ bá wa mútu etí ó yẹ gbóhùn sókè wọ́n ń gbọ́ yín báyìí.
ṣé mi lè bá wí ọyá.
bẹ́ẹ̀ ni sà Adéṣánbáyọ̀.
ok mo kí yan bàbá wa òní sáàmù ayébáyọ̀ lórúkọ mi mo kí n kú ẹkú ètò mo gbọ́ àwọn oríṣi nǹkan tí bàbá wa sọ sílẹ̀ àwọn nǹkan tó ní ọpọlọ ní kò lè jẹ́rìí wọn ìṣẹ́ lọ́pọlọ làwọn máa ń ṣe gbogbo wa jẹ́ ká rí i pé bí oríṣiríṣi ìlú ṣe ń gba tán ṣe ń fi ara wọn yàtọ̀ ẹ jẹ́ ká wo pattern tiwa àwọn leaders wa kọ́ ló máa gba Yorùbá fún wa ilẹ̀ Yorùbá fún wa àwa la máa gbà fúnra wa ẹ wo lẹ́tà tá a gbé lọ sí Downing Street kò sí leader wa kankan bẹ̀ kò sọ́ba kò sí jẹ́ kò sí pastor is one of the greatest progress tá a ti rí lẹ́yìn nígbà tá a bẹ̀rẹ̀ ìjàngbara yìí so meaning pé àwa tí a rò pé a jẹ́ nǹkan kan lọ́dọ̀ àwọn ọba lọ́dọ̀ ìjòyè lọ́dọ̀ politician àwa la máa gbà á inú mi dẹ̀ dùn pẹ̀lú nǹkan tí bàbá wa sọ yìí nípa it's a step forward in addition to the Downing Street issue yẹn wọ́n sọ̀rọ̀ nípa court case tá a lè ṣe mo really support ẹ̀. Wọ́n ní pé máa ná wa lówó 50,000 èló 50,000 ní we are millions. So tá bá plan ẹ̀ dáadáa àti ẹ̀ lè máa go through GoFundMe. Tá bá plan ẹ̀ ká tẹ àwọn ibi tó yẹ ká tẹ̀ ká bóyá sọ pé okay everybody iye báyìí ló gbọ́dọ̀ mú òun ṣe pé bóyá tó bá ka ẹ lára o tàbí torúkọ ti pọ̀ ńlẹ̀ dáadáa then àti tí 50 people bá fi 1,000 lẹ̀ that's 50,000 300 people bá fi half 500 lẹ̀ that's 50,000 ṣé pé àwa pé iye yẹn nílùú yìí tàbí àwọn owó tá a gan ti ń fi ṣọwọ́ sílé torí àwọn èèyàn wa tí wọ́n sọ pé wọ́n ń sọ́fà ṣé kò tó 1,000 bí kò jù bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ láti ìgbà tó ọjọ́ 100 pounds ọjọ́ 50 ọjọ́ kìíní kan so tá a bá rò ó láròjinlẹ̀ 50,000 pounds òun is nothing nígbà tí wọ́n ṣe pé nìkan ló máa gbélẹ̀ nípa ti UNPO bàbá yes ó yẹ oríṣiríṣi ọ̀nà la máa fi gba kínní láti popularize ara wa ó yẹ ká mọ nǹkan tí yẹn lè ṣe mo ní 1 or 2 connection tá a lè mọ bí tí kínní yẹn dálé ẹ̀yin náà ní pé bóyá ìlànà that is fine ó yẹ ká mọ nǹkan tí a lè rí nípa ti Naija Farage I think it's a very good approach. Because my enemy's enemy is my friend in the mathematical form of kini. So if we see a good thing because taba pool lọ́tún ta pool lósì ta pool níwájú lẹ́yìn bó ṣe máa dùn nìyẹn. Nípa ti court case I think it is something kò ọwọ́ yàn ṣe even bójú yẹn gan lọ is something tá a lè rí. Tó ń kálukú bá ń tọ́ ọ́ bà kù ẹni tó bá mọ̀ ní pé àwọn fẹ́ kinní yìí kẹ́rí bàbá ẹ jẹ́ ká gbàgbé àwọn tí wọ́n mọ̀ history and do not want to know the history is few people ló máa ń gbàlú bọ́n ṣe ń sọ. This is a great idea that it will be a step forward to the Downing Street approach. So àwọn nǹkan tí mo fẹ́ sọ nìyẹn yes tó bóyá màá pè yín lẹ́yìn ètò yìí àbí lọ́la to see how we can move it forward ẹ kú ètò ẹ ṣeun.
Thank you baba Sanbayo.
Ẹ ṣé gan ni dáàdì wa a dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín thank you. Ẹ ṣeun a dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Ọlọ́run á gbàdúrà wa bẹ́ẹ̀ nígbà tá a bá dákẹ́ a máa já sọ́nà náà láìpẹ́ láì jìnnà. Mo rí ọwọ́ bàbá wa Tajudeen A53 lókè kémi náà tó béèrè ìbéèrè mi dádì Tajudeen A53 ẹgbọ́n sókè sà.
Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀ olótù mo kí gbogbo ilé o ẹ kú iṣẹ́ takuntakun lórí ọ̀rọ̀ orílẹ̀-èdè Yorùbá Ọlọ́run á dẹ̀ gba orílẹ̀-èdè wa fún wa láìpẹ́ láì jìnnà pẹ̀lú àṣẹ Ọlọ́run lójú ẹ̀mí gbogbo wa. Mo dúpẹ́ púpọ̀ lọ́wọ́ bàbá wa bá a ṣẹ́gun àwọn kú iṣẹ́ takuntakun kún àìsùn àìwo lórí ọ̀rọ̀ àti gborílẹ̀-èdè Yorùbá wọ́n ti ń babọ̀ tójọ́ mẹ́ta mo orílẹ̀ dúpẹ́ púpọ̀ lọ́wọ́ wọn Ọlọ́run ní jẹ́ kó sún wọn Ọlọ́run ní jẹ́ kó rẹ̀ wọ́n. Nǹkan tí ìbéèrè ni ọ̀rọ̀ tí mo fẹ́ béèrè mi lè wá mọ̀ bóyá ó lè má jẹ́ béèrè anyway nípa point tí wọ́n mú jáde nípa pé ká kọ ìwé sí United Nations ni ó dá lé lórí. Mo gbọ́ lórí program kan lálẹ́ tí wọ́n invite YSDM youth leader Prophet Ológun Lolúwa tó sọ lórí program yẹn pé lára lẹ́tà tí bàbá wa Bánjí Akíntóyè kọ sí àgbáyé àwọn ìlú àgbáyé wọ́n kọ̀ọ̀kan sí United Nations lára ẹ̀ and 30 other countries. So question mi wá ni pé ṣé nígbà tí wọ́n ti fi lẹ́tà ránṣẹ́ through Ìgbòho sí United Nations ṣé bàbá wa bá a ṣègùn tún lè kọ́ mí again. I don't know mi mọ̀, so yẹn ni ìbéèrè mi tí mo fẹ́ béèrè lọ́wọ́ wọn. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀.
Ẹ ṣé.
Okay. Alàgbà Tajudeen, thank you for the question. Application to the UN ó yàtọ̀ sí just letter to the UN. Nǹkan tí mo sọ alẹ́ pé kò sẹ́ni tó mọ àwa Yorùbá. I've written maybe 4 letters to the UN. 4 letters. Èmi náà ti kọ sí Secretary General of the UN. But that's not enough. That's not going to get you anywhere because, as I said, nobody knows who the Yoruba are. So the application that you have to make to the UN has to be absolutely comprehensive. In that application, you will mention of the fact that the Yoruba had a country before we were amalgamated. That sort of thing, and you have to go into detail. It's not just simply saying we can amalgamate. No, you have to explain why. This is not something you can write in 10 pages of letter or whatever. This is really comprehensive letter that you have to explain exactly why we need to be on our own. Saying that our Fulani is not relevant, because the people that you are writing to the letter to know, they already know that it's in the news every day, but they are not going to do anything about it either. You need to give them a comprehensive reason why they should recognize Yoruba land. And the application is not if we want self-determination. You have to explain why and how you want to get it. Everybody quotes the article of the UN and the article of the AU talking about self-determination. The problem is that there is no mechanism for getting self-determination. Gbogbo charter yẹn kò sọ fún ẹ bó ṣe lè get self-determination. Ó sọ fún ẹ pé it's your right. It tells you it's your right, but it doesn't give you how to get it. That is the biggest problem. Is that there is no means of actualizing self-determination. The Prince Abikinonjeni Liechtenstein some time ago tried to devise some kind of mechanism. But in fact, there is no mechanism. And therefore, when you are going to make an application to the UN, it is much more than just a simple letter. It's got to be comprehensive. Look, these people are, happy for Europeans to have their own self-determination. Yugoslavia, Soviet Union. When it comes to Africa, they think that all you require is artificial independence. Artificial independence. That is the problem. Is that in order to overcome this kind of problem, you need to show that intellectually you are up to it. So that when you write an application, it is not a simple letter. I have written at least 4 letters to the UN myself. Don't forget, I've had a petition to the UN going. It's been going now since 2020. There are now over 10,000 signatories to it. So, but it's not getting us anywhere. The letter is not going to get. There is a mechanism for applying to the UN. It is laid out exactly how you apply to the UN. It's not a matter of just giving letter. There are protocols to follow. So that is my own. That is what I will say about that question. Fine, it's nice that Agbeyewo has taken a letter to the UN. That's fine. That's not a problem. Because as I said, I've written letters to the UN. I've written to Biden. I've written to Harris. So it's not, we're not talking of something that we haven't done. I mean, the only hope now, one hope that we have now is that because we have a political party that is registered in the UK, that has taken part in UK elections, we may be able to have much more clout than we used to have when we didn't have all these things. So these are the sort of considerations that my own attitude anyway has always been Onokowoja. Let them do what they are doing. We will do what we are doing. And as long as we get there in the end, that's all that matters. I hope that answers your question, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. It has answered it. Sir.
Ṣé gan ni a dúpẹ́ fún ìdáhùn àti ìbéèrè àti ìdáhùn yẹn. Ẹ ṣé. Onímàmá wa Bridget lórí line. Màmá ẹ bá gbóhùn sókè mà.
Ẹ kálẹ́ kú ètò àmì ètò mú kí màmá Àbíkẹ́ mọ̀lẹ́ fi bá ṣe yẹn. Ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò. Àní inú mi dùn pé Sambayo náà wà ní orí ètò because I think they will represent YSD. What I'm concerned about is making ourselves known, like Baba Bashigun saw. When we say we are members of UN, we don't pay subscription. How can we be known? And I want YSM to help us look into that. Hear what was saying? And like Bashigun saw, letter is different from application. Tobacco letter, there's nothing that says we cannot put in an application. But having said that, I think we should carry Baba along to make sure this is to know where Baba is at the moment, and then how we can take it up from there.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I appreciate. Okay, Baba Pastor Latuja, mo rẹ́yìn náà lórí platform. Over to you, sir.
Ẹ ṣé mà, a dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ àwọn bàbá wa tí a pèlè ní tí wọ́n jẹ́ wa. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀ sà, a dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín. Nǹkan tí mo kàn fẹ́ sọ ni wípé àdúrà látúbọ̀ máa gbà fún àwọn bàbá lórílẹ̀‐èdè ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ní wọn ló ti fi tó yẹ ká ṣe sílẹ̀ láì ṣe. There was a time tá sọ pé àwọn kan Boko Haram wọ́n ní repented Boko Haram. Wọ́n lọ kó wọn ní ká lọ join ní army, ká join ní sójà. Gbàtàn dẹ̀ ti débẹ̀ iṣẹ́ ibi wàhálà ọ̀nà túbọ̀ ń ṣe. Gbogbo àwọn yẹn sì ló yẹ ká dojú kọ. Àwọn ọmọ tá ti jí kó, àwọn ọmọ ilé ìwé tá ti jí kó for far many years now, wọn ò tí release wọn tán. Ṣùgbọ́n nísìnyí ẹ wo ẹni tá fi jẹ Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò. Aṣíwájú wa gan tá lè rí dìmú nílẹ̀ Yorùbá, òun náà tún gbé lọ sílé ẹjọ́. Àwọn Fúlàní tó ń ṣe gbogbo nǹkan kò rí àwọn yẹn ṣe. Ayéfẹ́lẹ́ tó interview ẹnìkan tó ti pọ̀sẹ̀ méjì yẹn nísìnyí náà ní kó mórí wá pé wọ́n fẹ́ gé. Ṣé gbogbo àwọn Fúlàní tó ń pa ọba tó ń pa ìjòyè wọn ò rí àwọn yẹn láti dojú kọ? Ọba Ìwó àtẹ̀mọ̀bí tí yẹn belongs to ọba ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ni, ṣùgbọ́n ìwà tó ń hù ìwà Fúlàní, ìwà àwọn tá a tẹ̀lé kàmá Yorùbá ni, wọn ò rí àwọn yẹn dojú kọ. Kí ló wá dé tó fi jẹ́ pé àlàáfíà ilẹ̀ Yorùbá tá a gbé kalẹ̀ ìyẹn gan ni wọ́n dojú kọ? Ibi tá a ti fẹ́ gba òmìnira pé kí ìyà má jẹ wá mọ́ ìyẹn náà dojú kọ. Kí ló á ṣẹlẹ̀ sí ilẹ̀ Yorùbá gan? Tẹ́ bá wo orin tí Bàbá Ògúndé ti kọ in the early 70s or 80s pé kí Yorùbá ronú. Ṣé àwa Yorùbá gan ṣe à ń ronú lè ní báyìí? tó gbogbo orúkọ yẹn ó ń bà yàn lọ́kàn jẹ́ tó bóyá bàbá kan lè ṣe àlàyé pé kí la lè ṣe ọ̀nà wo la tún lè gbà láti bá àwọn bàbá wọn sọ̀rọ̀ ká tiẹ̀ jókòó ká ronú àwọn ọba wa gan-an nílẹ̀ Yorùbá tó yẹ ká dìde ká jà fún ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ṣùgbọ́n ìpàdé ọ̀tẹ̀ ìpàdé tí ò tẹ̀ nítumọ̀ òun náà pè káàkiri ibi tẹ́ ti máa rówó gbà l'Àbújá tá máa rí gbogbo ẹ̀ ṣe ìyẹn náà dojúkọ tẹ́ bá tẹ̀ wo Ilé-Ifẹ̀ I'm very sorry to say sir ọ̀nà tó lọ sí ààfin ní ààfin Aláàfin kí lórúkọ ẹ̀ Ọọ̀ni of Ifẹ̀ ó ń dojú tìyàn ọ̀nà tó lọ sí Iléṣà lọ sí ọ̀nà ààfin kò tí ẹ̀ ṣe rí kò ṣe é wò mi mà bóyá pẹ̀lú kàtàṣe ń ṣe lẹ́nu ọjọ́ mẹ́ta yìí wọn ò rí gbogbo yẹn láti dojúkọ ṣùgbọ́n nísìnyí àwọn ọba wa bí patí bá ṣe bá di ọmọ ọdún mẹ́wàá ẹ̀rí wọn bẹ̀ bá ń ṣe kíni kan ẹ̀rí wọn bẹ̀ láyé àtijọ́ àwọn ọba you cannot just see them anyhow dédé rí àwọn ọba nílẹ̀ Yorùbá níta gbangba mo rántí ìgbà yẹn ọba Ìdànrè tá a bá lọ sí ààfin wọn láti lọ gbàdúrà lè mọ̀ pàtàkì máa dórí ìjókòó gan tábàdẹ̀ máa kúrò tẹ bá ṣẹ́jú pẹ́rẹ́ báyìí wọ́n ti kúrò ṣùgbọ́n àwọn bá ti sìn àwọn gan ló ṣàkóso lójú agbo ọba máa balẹ̀ fún gọ́vnà tó yẹ kó rí bẹ́ẹ̀ so Ọlọ́run á ràn wá lọ́wọ́ o so àwa Yorùbá ẹ jẹ́ ká jókòó ká ronú ibo là ń lọ tábà tẹ̀ mọ̀ bí tá à ń lọ tábà mọ̀ bí tá à ń lọ ó yẹ ká mọ̀ bí tá a ti ń bọ̀ so Olúwa ràn wá lọ́wọ́ sà dáàdi àdúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ fún àwọn àlàyé tẹ́ ti ṣe fún wa àgbà yẹn á dẹ̀ dalẹ̀ lágbára Ọlọ́run so àwọn bàbá Akíntóyè Olúwa dẹ̀mí wọn sí Dr. CSI Olúwa wà pẹ̀lú wọn àtẹ̀yìn kọ̀ọ̀kan báyìí tó dìde fúnlẹ̀ Yorùbá Olúwa dúró tì yín ẹ̀ ní kúkú òjijì ṣùgbọ́n àwọn bàbá tẹ́ bá ní oore ọ̀fẹ́ sà ẹ jẹ́ ká bá wọn sọ̀rọ̀ ká jókòó ká ronú ìgbé ayé tán ń gbé ó ń kọ wá lóminú so yẹn gan jẹ́ nǹkan tí mo fẹ́ sọ sà a fẹ́ ṣe nǹkan ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ní OAU Ọbáfẹ́mi Awólọ́wọ̀ University a lè ṣe few hours of the time wọ́n cancel ẹ̀ pé kò lè ṣeé ṣe níbi táwọn kábíyèsí Ọọ̀ni of Ifẹ̀ wà kò yẹ kó rí bẹ́ẹ̀ kí la wá ṣe irú ìgbésẹ̀ wo náà gbé lórí ìyẹn Ayéfẹ́lẹ́ ní ìsìná dojúkọ kó mórí wá kó mọ́rùn wá Ayéfẹ́lẹ́ ló kọ́kọ́ interview yẹn ni so ẹ ṣe púpọ̀ sàmú I have so many to say but because of time ẹ ṣe dáàdì Olúwa ràn yín lọ́wọ́.
ẹ ṣe gan ni bàbá ọpọlọ yín ò ní dọ́bà bẹ́ẹ̀ ni Ọlọ́run á ràn wá lọ́wọ́ àdúrà wa gbà àní dákẹ́ náà ni ẹ jẹ́ kí n ka àwọn kọ́mẹ̀tì wà lórí YouTube tèmi náà tó wá béèrè ẹ bá wa mú tẹni tí fóònù wọn ríǹgì o mo rí bàbá wa Sam Oyábáyọ̀ wọ́n ní ok pé UNP ògbà tí wọ́n sọ lẹ́ẹ̀kan wọ́n sọ represented nations and people organization wọ́n ní pé àwọn ọmọ ẹni tó lè ràn wá lọ́wọ́ nípa yẹn so a máa bá wọn sọ̀rọ̀ láti ràn wá lọ́wọ́ wọ́n ní mo rí bàmá wa Ẹ̀kánná Ọbámidélé we are going to support it wọ́n ní a máa support gbogbo nǹkan tí bàbá wa ti bá wa sọ bàbá wa Sùnmọ́ Ayédáyọ̀ sọ pé ìtàn Yorùbá self-determination movement lawyer Professor Akintoye that wrote letter and not Sunday Igboho bẹ́ẹ̀ ni mo ní màmá wa mo dúpẹ́ làwa àwọn ní a kí yín sí orí ètò yìí ó bá ṣègùn we appreciate you àwọn náà bá wa tẹ lọ́wọ́ àti share button bàbá wa Sam Oyèbáyọ̀ sọ pé ó yẹ ìsọ̀nà kan wọjà bẹ́ẹ̀ ni mo rí bóyá màmá wa àbí bàbá wa Ọmọjọlá bàbá Olatas we very much appreciate the efforts of the Yoruba people in the UK in particular there is need for to synergize anything. Is anything wrong if we collaborate with Professor Banji Akintoye to speak with one voice? Bẹ́ẹ̀ náà sọ pé a máa bá gbogbo wọn sọ̀rọ̀ láti jẹ́ ká gbóhùn sókè náà kan ṣoṣo. Mo rí bàbá wa Sally Communication TV, bàbá Alánọ̀sẹ̀ worldwide. Wọ́n náà bá wa tẹ like and share button. Bàbá wa Ẹ̀kánná Ọbámidélé. Wọ́n ní àwọn ọba olóṣèlú nǹkan wọ́n sọ nípa àwọn bàbá wa olóṣèlú síbẹ̀. Ẹ ṣé gan ni bàbá. Mi wá fẹ́ bèrè lọ́wọ́ yín sà pé náà ní pẹ̀lú the consultative leader tó ti wá tó ti sí òkò ní UK, ọmọ wa Kẹ́mi Bankop tó jẹ́ òní leader consultative báyìí, ó dẹ̀ sọ̀rọ̀ lórí program kan tí wọ́n ṣe interview fún lọ́jọ́ Sunday wípé òun náà mọ̀ wípé UK wà involved pẹ̀lú slave trade, pé bẹ̀tẹ̀ the good part of it pé àwọn náà ni wọ́n stop ẹ̀, bẹ̀tẹ̀ tó wá jẹ́ ìyà fún àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá tó jẹ́ pé káàkiri gbogbo ìgbà tó ń ṣòkò ẹrú náà, àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá náà ni wọ́n kó lẹ́rú, wọn kó Haúsá bí Ìgbò, nípa ọmọ Yorùbá náà ló ní egun wọ́n lè fi ṣiṣẹ́ tán fi kó gbogbo wa lẹ́rú, wọ́n fi kọ́ gbogbo ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn ìyá wa tán kú sódò tán jágbé wọn mì. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe wá wà nínú ẹgbẹ́ pátì ti UK tẹ́ ṣe yìí, ǹjẹ́ rò pé ẹ lè bá wa mọ bá ṣe máa rí Kẹ́mi àtàwọn ọmọ Yorùbá, torí bẹ́ẹ̀ sọ lẹ́ẹ̀kan náà pé ẹnìkan náà tó tún jọmọ Yorùbá wà nínú ìgbìmọ̀ nínú àwọn pátì tó ń móríyọ nínú UK, bá ṣe máa rí àwọn wọ̀nyí láti bá wa fọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀ láti jẹ́ ká mọ bá ṣe fẹ́ rìn, gẹ́gẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe sọ wípé lẹ́tà tá a gbé lọ yẹn, yes, bí ìgbà tó jẹ́ pé a fún wọn ní pressure ni, because bí bí ọba fún wọn ní pressure ni Nigeria government ní lè tètè dá wa lóhùn láàrin weekend, àwọn kọ́lá ṣàkọ lẹ́tà sí, àwọn kọ́lá kọ lẹ́tà sí, but ó ti jó wọn náà ni wọ́n ti mọ̀ pé yes, something has to be done. Mi wá rò pé pẹ̀lú ipò yín tẹ́ ti kọ lẹ́tà sí wọn, tẹ́ ti wà nínú pẹ̀lú Yorùbá party tẹ́ dá sílẹ̀ báyìí, tí ẹ ní àwọn ọmọ wa nínú UK party, either Labour àti Conservative àti opponent party, ìjọ ní nǹkan tí ẹ lè bá wa ṣe pẹ̀lú àwọn tó wà níbẹ̀ láti sọ nǹkan tó ń ṣe wá gan, ká bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti bẹ̀ ká tẹ̀ wo ìhà tí wọ́n kọ sí. Ẹ ṣeun.
One of the problems, or rather, one of what we perceive as our problem, this idea there's some kind of unity, that you have to have some kind of unity before you forge ahead. If the band duro need one voice or one united voice, we will be there. We will be waiting forever. For example, the Yoruba self-determination movement as a movement has existed before YSDM. Láti gba ayé ìgbà tán dá Yoruba kí náà pè wọ́n gbà Yoruba something gbà yẹn. So ó ti pẹ́ tí wọ́n ti that there has been attempts to collaborate, to get a group of Yoruba organizations together to speak with one voice. And so it's, for me personally, I see it as a waste of time, because what happens is that you spend so much time discussing the process, discussing the organization, rather than actually doing anything. And for me, the most important thing is, if somebody has an idea that he's pursuing, if you are interested, you can join him. The idea that somebody will have an idea, then he's going to be looking around for who to collaborate with, is a waste of time. We had, the Yoruba Party is a very good example of what I'm talking about. When we decided to stand election, we had 30,000 leaflets, distribute 30,000 leaflets, going to people's homes, talking to people on the streets. Then we sent out 40,000 manifestos through the post office. All you get on the doorstep is just argument, and this is one of the problems that we have as Yoruba people. Part of it is that we love the sound of our own voices. Part of it is that we all think we are so clever that until somebody comes to us to come and beg us to take part in whatever it is he's doing, we don't want to do it. I'm afraid I'm too old to be wasting my energy in looking around and begging people to come out. If you feel that what we are doing is what you like, what you would like to join, then come and talk to us about it. Don't wait for us to come and talk to you. Because it's taking a lot for us to establish the Yoruba party in the UK. Kì í ṣe pé díjọ́ kan decide pé a fẹ́ ṣe party or even the election that we've just done, we are still doing the paperwork. I'm going to be meeting with the Electoral Commission this Thursday, still talking about the election that took place in July. So I'm afraid the idea that we should spend our time, looking for people to discuss with and so on and so forth. Anybody who's interested in Yoruba nation needs to keep his eye open, his ear open, that if you see something that is being done that you agree with, then yes, you come and join us and say, let us, we want this idea of going to court, how can we, actualize it? But the idea that, I am at my age going to go to somebody to ask for permission to do what I think is right for the Yoruba nation, it's not going to happen. The Yoruba nation is bigger than any individual. So I'm afraid it is just not, I'm not going to waste my time trying to, be discussing with people how the best way. I did that when I was the coordinator for Ilana UK, when I led the Ilana UK. So I've gone through all this sort of thing before, where you try to collaborate with this, collaborate with that. It doesn't get anywhere because you spend so much time trying to, I don't know, so much energy is wasted. When there is an initiative, if you feel that this initiative is something that interests you, that this is something you want to take part in it, then say so. Don't hang around and be waiting for somebody to come to you and then say, "Oh, sir, can I do this?" It's not going to happen with me. I won't do it. It takes me a lot of time to do research on so many things, to prepare for so many things, that I don't have the time to go and be begging somebody to come and be part of what we're doing. If anybody is interested to join us, we've got a political party, come and join. And we can take it from there. But we are not going to expend energy trying to convince people to, we will do what we think we can do. If it's successful, yes. If it's not successful, we've tried our best. But if anybody is waiting for me to come to them, you're wasting your time, I'm afraid. If you want to join with what we are doing, you know where we are, come and join us. That's all I will say. I have gone through this, trying to wait for somebody, trying to look for somebody. That's how we went to court in Ado-Ekiti and in Osogbo and failed, because people are too interested in the process, in the organization. They have no interest in actually what we are trying to do. And I'm not going to waste, my precious, the little life left that I have. I'm not going to waste it on trying to, collaborate with anybody. They can come and join us. This is, I've outlined, for example, today, the 4 things that I think we can do. Anybody who's interested can come and join us, can come and discuss, this is how we can do this together. But I'm not going to take my idea to somebody for approval. I've passed that age. I'm too old for that. I've completely passed that age. And, we are not going to get anywhere as Yoruba people if we continue down that path. And, an example is what we are talking about, Afenifere, who's busy thinking about how they are going to be fair to everybody else, but forgetting that the organization is a Yoruba organization. That's all you are. You are not a Nigerian organization that you are looking, we should do this for the Igbo, we should do this. I mean, what kind of nonsense is that? So I'm afraid, this is my own attitude. This is the way that I think things should be done. If you feel that, the ideas that we express is something you want to take part in, then we will discuss. But we are not going to go to anybody to go and beg you to come and take part in something. That's I mean, that's not going to happen. Thank you.
Ṣeun gan ni adúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín. Ẹ ṣeun. Bámẹ́tò orí tẹ́lẹ̀ pé ọ̀mùtù máíkrófóònù yín.
Let me. I can't get my decision. Okay.
Okay. Tó. Ṣé ara ẹni tó tún bá wa fẹ́ dá sí ẹ bá wa èrè question opportunity là ní báyìí láti bá bàbá wa sọ̀rọ̀.
Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ mo kàn fẹ́ dá sí náà ni o.
Màmá ó yẹ bá wa gbóhùn sókè mà.
A kú meeting, a kú ìpàdé. Àdájú wa ṣe o. Ọpọlọ yín ò ní dọ́bà o. We really enjoy this evening. It's eye opening. Anyway, nǹkan tí mo kàn fẹ́ sọ ni pé mo agree pẹ̀lú dádì wa pé ká má dúró de tá à ń pe àwọn ọba, tá à ń pe àwọn òjòyè yẹn. Ìdímọ̀ tá à ń pe wọ́n rò pé àwọn important ni. Torí kí n tó join ní ètò ilé ní bàbá Ọbásanjọ́ mi mọ ibi tó ti lọ sọ̀rọ̀ ló ní àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá ńkọ́, ó ní wọ́n ṣẹ̀wọ̀n, òun ò dẹ̀ ní dáríjì òun ò ní dáríjì wọn. So ni màmá Kẹ́mi Dr. Kẹ́mi tó máa ń sọ̀rọ̀ láti Amẹ́ríkà yẹn, ó sọ burúkú ọ̀rọ̀ fún pé àwọn ọ̀dà who are you? So ẹ jẹ́ ká fi wọ́n lẹ̀. Ṣé rí mítìnì tí wọ́n ní wọ́n lọ ṣe yẹn, ẹ jẹ́ ká fi wọ́n lẹ̀ sọ́wọ́ Ọlọ́run. Àwọn èèyàn ti jáde, wọ́n ti ní tí wọ́n bá lọ pẹ́rẹ́ Dr. Kẹ́mi tó máa wọ́n ní ẹni tó bá lọ sí mítìnì yẹn pé tó bá lọ gba ẹ̀yìn gba ẹbọ dẹ́yìn fún ọmọ Yorùbá, wọ́n ti náà máa kú ni. So ẹ fi gbogbo wọn lẹ̀, jẹ́ k'Ọlọ́run dájọ́ pẹ̀lú, ẹ jẹ́ k'Ọlọ́run ṣe dájọ́. Tí Ọọ̀ni Ifẹ̀ bá jẹ́ ẹni tó lọ́pọlọ lórí ni, mi rò pé òun ló yẹ kó dìde kó lọ sí ọ̀dọ̀ Elégùṣì, ṣùgbọ́n tó bá fẹ́ lọ ẹ jẹ́ kan lọ. Mo agree pẹ̀lú dájú ẹ má àti joyè àti ọba, ẹ wo Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò tó ń pè káàkiri, dìímọ̀ tó ń pè é ṣe ni ó ń ga pàṣẹ. Ó dé pàtí kanjọ́ kan dọ́là báyìí ló gbé jáde béèlì iṣẹ́ mọ̀. So tẹ bá ń pè wọ́n yẹn ń pọ́n wọn lé, ẹ jẹ́ ká fi wọ́n lẹ̀. Àwọn without them àwọn náà Ọlọ́run ló ti ń ṣe ní àtijọ́. Mo dẹ̀ tún agree pẹ̀lú dájú àtọ́ ní àwa Yorùbá I like argument, I dey like ọ̀rọ̀ without action. So bẹ́ẹ̀ mi ṣe rí dádì sí sọ is a man of action pé okay ẹ̀ ń sọ give it, I mean take it to action. Torí bẹ́ẹ̀ bá lọ gbé báwọn náà wọ́n á lọ yín fún títí ẹlòmíì àti ẹ̀ sọ̀rọ̀ mi bàyẹ̀ lè fẹ́ lè gbà létí pé gbogbo ètò ń ṣẹlẹ̀ sójú ẹ̀ fọ́ ni. So ẹni tó bá dádì kan pè lórí kíní lẹ́ẹ̀kan mi wọ́n ní ṣètò owó tán ní kán dá yẹn pé tó bá gbé jáde àwọn adáwó. That is how it should be. Ìyá ti lè wúrè gbé jù no action. Ọlọ́run á wà pẹ̀lú wa. Ẹ ṣé sà, ẹ ṣé dádì, ẹ ṣé gbogbo ilé.
Ẹ ṣé mọ́mì, adúpẹ́, ọpọlọ yóò ní dọ́bà. Ẹ ṣé. Tó mo rí ọwọ́ méjì lókè. Ẹ dá Chief Mrs. Lawal. Ó yá, ẹ gbóhùn sókè.
Ẹ kú ètò, mo kí yín bàbá Ṣẹ́gun. Ẹ ṣé gan ni tá pè yín tẹ́ jẹ́ wá. Mo dẹ̀ tún kí Comrade Ọ̀yábáyọ̀ náà. Mo rí pé ẹ wà níbí báyìí. Ẹ ṣé gan ni. Thank you very much. Bàbá Ṣẹ́gun, ṣe rí kíní Yorùbá party tán dá sílẹ̀ yẹn, irú party yẹn sì báyìí tó bá jẹ́ pé wọ́n wà ní ilé aṣòfin, irú gbogbo nǹkan ta mú lẹ́tà tá mú lọ yẹn, ṣe mọ̀ pé àwọn náà máa bá wa loud about this thing nínú ibẹ̀ yẹn, nínú parliament ibẹ̀ yẹn. Àwọn náà máa bá wa wọ́n ní jẹ́ kó sùn rárá. Wọ́n máa bá wa pariwo ẹ̀ wípé nǹkan báyìí ń ṣẹlẹ̀ o, báyìí ń ṣẹlẹ̀. So but kò yí ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ èèyàn. Èmi dẹ̀ fẹ́ fi àsìkò yìí jẹ́ kó yí ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ èèyàn wípé ṣe rí Yorùbá party tí wọ́n dá sílẹ̀ yẹn, ó dàbí ìgbà tẹ́ pé àwa they are representing us ní UK Parliament. So èmi bá àsìkò yìí gba ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn èèyàn níyànjú wípé ẹ jẹ́ ká wake up, ká mọ advantage Yorùbá party yìí fún wa nínú pé ká gba òmìnira wa. Ẹ jẹ́ ká a nídìí representation ní parliamentary house ní Britain, and then tí ìránṣẹ́bìnrin arábìnrin tí wọ́n fi ṣe olórí àwọn conservative nílùú ọba, arábìnrin yìí wọ́n yàn síbẹ̀ ní ọmọ Yorùbá níná, ọmọ Yorùbá ní bàbá ẹ̀ àti ìyá ẹ̀, but òyìnbó ló fẹ́. So mi ò mọ̀ bó ṣe lè ó yẹ kóun náà lè lẹ́nu ọ̀rọ̀ níbẹ̀ yẹn ná, but mo depend lórí ẹ̀, òun fúnra rẹ̀ bó ṣe lè ṣe mọ̀. Ẹlòmíì náà wà ń bẹ́ á máa bẹ̀rù wípé kọ́ má sọ wípé òun ń ṣe kinní kan, kọ́ má nítorí pé òun jẹ́ ọmọ Yorùbá o lòun ṣe ń ṣe kinní, lòun ṣe ń ṣe òtítọ́, ó láti wà diplomatic náà. So ẹ jẹ́ ká fi sílẹ̀, tọ́lọ́run fúnra rẹ̀ bá minister unto her, á fúnra rẹ̀, òun fúnra rẹ̀ ló máa sùn níjọ́ kan ní, òní lè sùn tó máa fúnra ẹ̀ sọ̀rọ̀ síta, ló máa gbóhùn sókè. So ẹ má jẹ́ ká bu, àwọn kan fẹ́ máa bu, wọ́n fẹ́ máa sọ kinní, ẹ má jẹ́ ká bu, ẹ jẹ́ ká fi sílẹ̀, iṣẹ́ ló gbà. So tó bá dẹ̀ yá, tọ́lọ́run bá fẹ́ lò ó, Ọlọ́run mọ bó ṣe máa lò ó. So ìyẹn ni nǹkan tí mo ní kí n sọ. Ẹ ṣé gan ni.
Thank you very much. Mi ò kọ́kọ́ fẹ́ sọ nǹkan kan pa Kẹ́mi Badenoch tí wọ́n ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ yàn as leader of the Tory party, because her constituency ó yàtọ̀ sí nǹkan táwa ṣe. Yes, she's Yoruba, but her constituency ó yàtọ̀ sí constituency tiwa. That is the first thing we need to realize. So àwọn tó ń bu ibi tọ́rọ̀ wá wà ní, you can disagree with somebody without necessarily having to be abusive. Because we cannot speak with one voice because we are human beings, so we have different ideas. And one of the things our fair share or that we think we should do is to try and convince people that what we are doing is the correct path. You cannot convince anybody that you are going along a path if you are abusing them. How is she going to ever be on the same side as us? But we can point out certain things like irú nǹkan tá à ń sọ nípa immigration, tá à ń sọ nípa what the Commonwealth is saying. Yes, she may think whatever it is that she thinks about slavery, but we can tell her that àwa tá a ṣe research lórí ẹ̀, nǹkan tá a rí rèé, nǹkan tá a kà rèé. And one thing is that it is also important that people don't think that we Black people only have one mind. That is also important. Our dudu, we are not monolithic. That's why for example, I can never be conservative because we have different concepts of life, of society, of what people should be doing. So I don't agree. No. It doesn't. If you can never come to an accommodation. So as far as I'm concerned, if the situation arises where we have to cooperate with her, I will do it. There's nothing stopping us from collaborating with her, because there are certain things we can point out to her that will be to her, even to her benefit. So let's just it is childish to be abusive to one another.
Ẹ ṣeun, a dúpẹ́ gan ni, bẹ́ẹ̀ ni àwọn ò tiẹ̀ ń búyàn, so a máa encourage ara wa náà ni, bóyá Ọlọ́run bá mí sí ó lè rò wípé slave trade náà ó kúkú mọ́ òun náà, so Ọlọ́run á ràn wá lọ́wọ́. Màmá ìwé bá wa káwọ́ sílẹ̀, bàbá wa Ọlánọsẹ̀ bá wa gbóhùn sókè sà. Bàbá ẹsẹ̀ làwa Ọlánọsẹ̀ ló dà. Màmá Paget ẹ bá wa gbóhùn sókè, bàbá Ọlánọsẹ̀ bóyá.
Èmi kàn fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀ lórí
àwọn lọ́ba ni. Mo kàn fẹ́ point out pé there are some obas who are on our side, who are working tirelessly. And if they need their signature on any letter to represent the obas, I think they'll be happy to do so. The same thing, some pastors, we can get pastors so that they will represent the pastors. I think the youth can get involved as well. That shows that we carry everybody along. Contribution to make so that it don't be one side. Everybody is involved. The obas are involved. The pastors are involved. The youth are involved.
I mean, one of the things we did with the Yoruba Party was that we went to mosques, we went to churches, to talk to people, so that we covered as wide a group as possible. And recently, I spoke to one Oba. We were on the program together, and I'm a traditionalist, Yoruba traditionalist. Me, I'm a Yoruba monarchist. That's why I have a chieftaincy title, because I believe in our tradition. What is disappointing is the fact that some of our obas, it's very difficult to understand. I mean, for example, the Oni has carriage, carriage. Àwọn èèyàn ò tí ì jẹun òǹgùn gold carriage. I mean, it doesn't make an awful lot of sense.
It doesn't.
Òǹgùn carriage.
But there are more. There are more sensible others than Oni of Ife.
Yeah, me. I'm just saying, àwa tá a jẹ́ monarchist, nǹkan tó disappoint wa nìyẹn. Because I am a traditionalist. I believe in the Yoruba culture, the Yoruba tradition, the essence of Yorubaness. I believe in it. So that one gets disappointed. I mean, a Yoruba Oba to be trying to call himself an emir. I mean, these are just, it's either a lack of understanding of history, because I mean, a lot of Obas seem to be ignorant about the history. During the time of the British rule, àwọn ọba wa wọ́n ti ní a committee since 1931, I think, the Committee of Yoruba Obas don't meet pẹ̀lú the colonial government, who, in fact, Latiba, they were hammering, education. They were more, so they had, the Obas met in different places. The last one, was in Benin. Benin. And the governor attend the meeting, and that is how the House of Chiefs started. Parliament in Nigeria, two parliaments. The House of Assembly, at the House of Chiefs, in Nigeria. Because even at the time of the colonialists, the Obas were, had some respect. But you see, there's nobody, they have no respect. Respect Taloma respect Sa Aderemi Loma Soro Lema Bulenu. The gravitas, the charisma of the office. But these people don't seem to understand the weight of the office that they are occupying. The government of every town, of every city, was the Oba and the council, which I used to call the constitutional Oba system. Was one of the most democratic system of government anywhere on the globe. But our complete lack of understanding of history, that they don't really know what. That's the sad aspect of it. That people should not be Obas unless they actually understand Yoruba history. They should not be Obas at all unless they actually understand Yoruba history. It's unbelievable. It's very, very sad. And that's one of the things we have to do. Yoruba nation, we will send them to school. You go and learn about your culture, about your tradition. Yoruba history. Instead of all this nonsense, Imale is because people came from Mali to teach us Islam. Imale, the word is Imale, Imatole, because Quran was difficult for the Yoruba to learn. That's why they called it Imale. It had nothing to do with Mali. But these are the sort of things. The other day somebody was telling me, ẹnìkan lọ láti Yorùbá lọ sí Mecca. Mecca is about 2,000-3,000 miles away. Báwo ló ṣe débẹ̀? These are the sort of things that people. How did he get there? Lọ sí Mecca, lọ sí Mecca. People don't just. Sometimes we just talk. This is why history is very, very important. Bóyá nǹkan táwọn Yorùbá fi máa ń sọ ni pé tí ọmọdé bá ṣubú àwò wájú tágbà bá ṣubú àwò ẹ̀yìn. History is a very, very important thing for us. And I'm telling you, when we get our own country, history must be compulsory for everybody to learn. We have to relearn Yoruba history. Not the nonsense that we have been to any Yoruba land, lost in Mecca 2,000-3,000 miles. Báwo ló ṣe rìn débẹ̀? How many years ló máa take láti rìn 3,000 miles? Tó ní mọ́tò, tó ní train, tó ní kẹ́tẹ́kẹ́tẹ́, tó bá tiẹ̀ ní kẹ́tẹ́kẹ́tẹ́, mo ló fẹ́ gun kẹ́tẹ́kẹ́tẹ́ ní. These are the sort of things that we really have to, when the time comes, our education has to be completely started afresh. Right afresh.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ẹ ṣe gan ni òtítọ́ lẹ sọ because ẹnìkan sọ sórí pé chaati pé àwọn ọba olóṣèlú ni wọ́n torí ẹni tó bá ti rówó fún wọn tó bá ṣe tiwọn ni wọ́n yàn síbẹ̀ àwọn ọba tó wà ń bẹ̀ àwa náà rí bọ́n ṣe ń ṣe báyìí tí odidi Ọ̀ọ̀ni tó máa nawọ́ sí gọ́vnà tó máa ṣe patí tọ̀ Yorùbá náà ràn wá lọ́wọ́ àdúrà wa gbà. Bàbá wa lánàṣẹ à ń pè yín o mọ̀mútu ṣé sísítẹ̀mù jẹ́ dá wa lóhùn báyìí torí àròjọ musolókun bóyá aago 11 sí ní Nàìjíríà bóyá wọ́n dẹ̀ ti pa nẹ́tíwọ̀kì wọn tó ẹ ṣé gan ni bàbá tí a pè yín tí ẹ jẹ́ wa àjíǹde á máa jẹ́ ò wà ràn wá lọ́wọ́ ìrìnàjò náà tá wá rìn náà á bá wa ṣe àdélẹ̀ ìrírí láìpẹ́ láìjìnà náà á jẹ́ kó ṣeéṣe fún wa gbogbo ìgbésẹ̀ náà tí ẹ̀ ń gbé gbogbo náà lájọ máa jẹ́ àjọ fọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀ kó ba lè yẹ wá torí pé àgbọ̀jọwọ́ náà la fi ń sọ̀yà náà á ràn wá lọ́wọ́ ẹ ṣé gan ni tí a pè yín tí ẹ jẹ́ wa I appreciate yín gan sir thank you so much ẹ ṣeun mo kí àwọn èèyàn wa tán darapọ̀ mọ́ wa lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí ẹ ṣé gan tí ẹ bá wa ṣe ti alẹ́ tó a ti ṣètò náà nìyí báyìí ẹ bá wa like kẹ bá wa share kẹ bá wa subscribe kẹ bá wa tẹ like button ẹ bá wa share fáwọn èèyàn náà kán tún gbọ́ kán tún gbọ́ pé ọ̀nà àbáyọ ó wà ẹ jẹ́ ká jọ ṣe kó bàjẹ́ lìyẹ wá ẹ ṣé gan ni mo dúpẹ́ bá mi tó bá tó yọ sà.
ok ẹ ṣé gan màmá Àbíkẹ́ mo kí àwọn bàbá Bàṣẹ́gun ẹ má jọ̀rọ̀ wá sún yín o tó ráyè tún pè yín. Mo kí bàbá Sambayo, it's a good thing you are available. So mo ràn pé màmá Paget ti rán ẹ níṣẹ́ sí YSDM. So àwọn náà tún lè pè ń létà o ká tún pè sórí ọpọ́n yìí. Ẹ máa retí wa, ẹ máa retí call wa. Ẹ dẹ̀ ṣe bàbá Tajudeen mo rò bí answer tí bàbá give yín ó dáa. Tòun lè tẹ̀ pé to me gẹ́gẹ́ bó ṣe sọ yẹn, as many people that can write about what we are after ó matter, you see. So wọ́n dẹ̀ ti distinguish náà pé application ó yàtọ̀ sí just letter. The more of those things the UN get, the better for us. Ngbà tí irú wa kọ tó gidi kọ tó ẹ pé lórí tọ́pìkì kan náà ni wọ́n á gbé yẹ̀wò. Ngbà tí wọ́n bá rí 20 letters saying the same thing, tẹ́lẹ̀ rí application towards that to back it up, there no way they can talk to it. Wọ́n á ṣe nǹkan kan nípa ẹ̀. Awareness náà ni. Pẹ̀lú àdúrà bóyá ilé àdúrà náà la wà á máa fàdúrà sí. Gbogbo tá à ń ṣe pẹ̀lú àdúrà ni. Ẹ̀yin aládùúrà ẹ má jò sun yín. Òun la fi ní àwọn nǹkan míì tá à ń rí distraction ló ń jẹ́, but àwa concentrate pé ohun tá à ń fẹ́ là ń fẹ́. Wọ́n dẹ̀ ní alágbẹ̀dẹ tó ń lu irin lójú kan ó ní nǹkan tó máa yọrí sí. Àdúrà wa gbà, Ọlọ́run ní dàdúrà wa lò aláyà. So ẹ ṣé gan gbogbo ẹ̀yin tẹ́ wà ní Zoom something pẹ̀lú wa àbí àtọ́ wà ní YouTube. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ bá share, ẹ love, ẹ like, ẹ admire wa, ẹ dákun. And create awareness for every one of us ni. Mo rò pé nǹkan tí bàbá tún sọ fún alálẹ̀ yìí náà gbogbo náà la rí nǹkan tá a lè dìmú dá nínú ẹ̀. Ẹ má jẹ́ kó sún yín o. Àwa ayé kan náà lẹ máa rí ní every Tuesday lágbára Ọlọ́run. Àjọṣe wa kò ní bàjẹ́ o. Ẹ ṣeun gan, mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ bàbá Lamid Agbeyewo, more blessing. Àmọ́ pé apẹ́ díẹ̀ lé ní bọ̀ má bínú. Ó máa ń wá bẹ́ẹ̀ ìgbà míì wà, there will be time and there will be no talk. And then the other time that we be talk, there be no time. Èní just pé we got time and we get talks. So gbogbo mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ wa pé a fi ara balẹ̀. Ẹ ṣeun gan ni, kò ní sú wa kò ní rẹ̀ wá o. Mo kí àwọn bàbá Ọlátújà, mo dẹ̀ kí ìyá Àbíkẹ́ pé ẹ̀ ń gbé gbogbo ẹ̀ lọ sókè. Ẹ má bínú pé sometimes interference wá láti ọ̀dọ̀ mi ò tètè ronú pé yẹ kí n mute ara mi ni, ẹ má bínú. So kò ní rí bẹ́ẹ̀ mọ́ next time. Ẹ ṣé. Yeah, because mo tí kí mo kẹ́yìn náà o, mo kí gbogbo àyè mi mo lè dá kan sábà ní YouTube because I don't see them and I don't see, so ẹ ti kí wọn ẹ ti ṣe gbogbo wọn yẹn. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ gbogbo yín o. Àwọn tán lè wá náà Ọlọ́run wá pẹ̀lú gbogbo àbí tá a bá wà ibi kí tá a wà kò ní sọ kò ní rẹ̀ wá lágbára Èdùmàrè. Ẹ ṣeun gan ni.
So bàbá wa pásítọ̀ Látúnjà ó yẹ bá wa kí gbogbo àwọn àlejò wa pàtàkì tó wá lálẹ́ àtàwọn tó ń bọ́ sọ̀dọ̀ wá pẹ̀lú wọn àtàwọn èèyàn wa náà. Over to you, sir. Pásítọ̀ Látúnjà ẹ bá wa kí àwọn èèyàn wa o, bá wa kí àlejò wa àtàwọn èèyàn tó darapọ̀ mọ́ wa. Okay, ó dàbí pé wọ́n busy tó. Ẹ ṣé gan ni o, adúpẹ́ tó. Ẹjí náà wọ́n lọ́wọ́ bọ́tìnì akẹ́yìn náà lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí. Adúpẹ́ gan ni o. Ìpàdé wa tó jẹ́ ọjọ́ mẹ́jọ ní agbára Elédùmarè. Kẹ́lẹ́mì má gbà. Ẹ ṣeun lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí. Thank you everybody. Our engineer, over to you, sir. Ẹ ṣé o. Agbeyewo.
So kí la fẹ́ ṣe o, bàtà rí ẹ̀jẹ̀ náà o.
Royal network ilé nìyẹn o.
Ó yá tálára bá ti ń gbọ́ kó sọ fàjèrò, tájèrò bá ti ń gbọ́ kó tàtàpọ̀ ẹ̀sọ́ tí ọwọ́ àràǹgún àga. Bọ́rọ̀ tó gbòde ti gbẹ̀rẹ̀gẹ̀ jígẹ̀ lórí afẹ́fẹ́. Ọ̀rọ̀ tó gbòde níbi tẹ́tí máa pàdé bá mẹ́tò Kọ́láwọlé Idris Sule tòun tàlájà Àbíkẹ́ Akí pẹ̀lú àti Balógun Òdúnifá Adébáyọ̀ pẹ̀lú Pastor Amos Ọlátúnjà àti Tajudeen Tìjání Àlàbí Ajámọ́jẹ̀bi ní gbogbo ọjọ́ ìṣẹ́gun tí a mọ̀ sí Tuesday láago 4 ọ̀sán ní USA Eastern Time tó jẹ́ agogo 9 àṣálẹ́ ní UK Time àti agogo orílẹ̀-èdè Yorùbá tí a ọ̀rọ̀ tó gbòde tọmọdé tàgbà ló láǹfààní àti wètò yìí nítorí pé kún fọ́gbọ́n tó ń tòye tá a nílò lásìkò yìí gan ọ̀rọ̀ tó gbòde lórí ètò yìí bákan náà lẹ́yìn tí láǹfààní àti máa gbọ́ òkodoro ọ̀rọ̀ ohun tó ń lọ lágbàáyé ohun tó ń lọ nílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà àti ní orílẹ̀-èdè gbogbo láì fi ipò mọ́yọ̀ rárá fún ẹ̀kúnrẹ́rẹ́ àlàyé síwájú sí i tàbí tẹ́ ẹ bá ní àwọn ìbéèrè àti àmọ̀ràn kankan ẹ lè pe atọ́kùn ètò sórí +1 203 685 2961 tàbí kẹ́kàn sí +44 793 972 6080 bákan náà ní ẹ lè pe +234 706 787 2785 ọ̀rọ̀ tó gbòde a ò ní wá mìtì nínú olóríire àmín. Ìkéde ìdẹ́sítì gbé látọwọ́ ìgbìmọ̀ tó wà fún ìpolongo àpapọ̀ ẹ̀sìn ilẹ̀ Yorùbá tá a mọ̀ sí Yorùbá Nation Multi-Faith.
See